Well, hi there. So in this video, we're going to learn our fourth and final market structure, monopolistic competition. It's all about kind of a lot of real world places like restaurants and grocery stores and retail stores. And what's really cool is it's the same graph that you've already learned. So there's not a whole new graph. Let's get started. Okay, so this first whole big section up here are just kind of like traits of these types of markets. And so we can generally say that monopolistic competition engages in product differentiation. Another way to say that is they engage in non-price competition. So sometimes they'll compete with each other in a way that isn't really related to the price, right? They're not going to say, well, I'm going to try to undercut my competitors necessarily. The ways that they often will differentiate their products, right? There's a lot of them, but some examples, they'll have warranties or rewards programs, things like a little kind of thing where you enter your phone number and they kind of keep track. Obviously, they're data harvesting and they're making money on that. Side note, right? That's not cool, right? You don't want to necessarily give away your data for free because then you're the product. At any rate, but it's also basically saying, hey, come back to us because we have this special relationship where we'll make sure we treat you really well and all that kind of stuff, right? In a local grocery store, maybe they want to offer you some schnoopons or something like that. The market would be, though, competitive if these were identical products. So they wouldn't be engaging in these behaviors if they had identical products. But instead, they're going to say, well, if you come on Tuesdays, that's when we do Taco Tuesdays at the Mexican restaurant. And they're distinguishing themselves from the Chinese restaurant that does not have Taco Tuesday. The goal of all these processes is to slice the market up and create almost like little portions of the market where it's like, okay, you get the people who want Chinese food. I'm going to take the people who want Mexican food. And you take the group of people who want American style, like Red Robin or whatever. And so each one of them kind of contends with a little portion of that market. And as a result, it's kind of monopolistic. Maybe that's why it's called monopolistic competition. So the reason why it's downward sloping is because it's like little subdivisions of the market. And so they really do see almost like mini monopolies, if you want to think about it that way, even though it's not technically correct. The goal of these kind of purposes is to actually make sure that each kind of demand for each of these groups is a little bit less elastic. So if I were to raise the price, I would get more total revenue rather than losing a bunch of customers. The quantity that we profit maximize in is MR equals MC, and price is still on the demand curve. So this is all the same, right? Same as usual. So I'll put same as usual. Now, let's go ahead and start by drawing what one of these bad boys is going to look like. It's going to be, for just a moment, it's going to look a whole lot like a picture we've already drawn once. And so the demand curve tells us the price. We do have a separated marginal revenue curve. And the cost curves are exactly the same as what we would expect there to be in perfect competition or in an artificial monopoly, because that's actually the exact same graph that we're about to draw. Now we know that they profit maximize. Whoa, I missed it. Got to put a dot. Profit maximize at MR equals MC, and they price up here on the demand curve. And this one says in long run equilibrium, so I am going to do price equals the ATC. So our ATC is going to come down and then come over here, hit its minimum, and then get on out of there, little doggy. And so we've got here price equals ATC. There is no profit in this scenario. Now, in the short run, they could have this outcome, right, where they're breaking even. But in the long run, they must have this outcome, right? So this must be in the long run. And so that's true of perfect competition as well, right? So similar to perfectly competitive in this regard, that, in the long run, they earn zero economic profit, or what we call normal profit in the long run. And that is because, and it tells you right here, they will earn no economic profit in the long run because companies will enter in response to profit. So just like you would expect, if it's a small town and there's like a Mexican restaurant, a Chinese restaurant, an American restaurant, and all of a sudden the restaurants are just getting slammed with customers and they're all making lots and lots of profit. Well, some smart entrepreneur is going to go, gee, there's lines out the door at the three stores, at the three restaurants. There's profit to be made. I'm going to open a restaurant, and maybe they open an Italian restaurant, right? And now the market subdivides a little bit more, but what happens then is that more firms enter and that lowers the price, right? Just like we would expect that to happen. Now, what actually happens for all the firms in the industry is even, I think, more interesting than that. What happens is that if there's firms earning a profit, and let's go ahead and draw that so I can actually show it, the demand curves for the pre-existing firms actually shift inward. So let's draw that process here. And I know my demand is really steep right there, but that we'll be okay. I think we're going to be okay. So we know we're going to kind of first, we drop down our Q sub F. And if we're earning a profit, P sub F needs to be bigger than the ATC. And so we're going to kind of come down, hit that ATC, and then get on out of there. And that is going to lead us to earn economic profit. Now go ahead and shade that amount right here. Whoop, 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 whoop. Yay, profit. As a result of this firm earning profit, just like I said a moment ago, new companies would open. And when that happens, this kind of demand curve and marginal revenue curve will actually shift to the left and shift inward for all of the companies in that market. And I think about why that would be. Well, you have 3 restaurants and then a 4th one opens. The 3 restaurants that had lines out the door, well, some of those customers are going to go over there to the 4th restaurant. And so all 4 of the restaurants are going to see a little bit less demand for their product. And that process will continue with a new restaurant opening so long as there's profit to be made. And that process will keep going until the demand curve for each of those restaurants just touches and becomes a tangent line to that ATC, and then they're no longer earning economic profit. So now there's no reason for a new person to open a restaurant. And so typically in monopolistically competitive industries, they are super thin margins, right? Grocery stores, restaurants, they have very razor thin margin. Margin means like how much profit you make. And that's because it's so easy to start a new business in those particular sectors, right? If there's tons of profit to be made, somebody's going to open a new business. And so I do give you examples here: restaurants, retail chains, grocery stores, blah, 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 blah. Now, they can lose money too, and that process would work in reverse. And it's actually even easier, I think, to draw them in loss, because when we're doing that, you just put that ATC up high. So again, these are all the same graphs that we did for artificial monopoly. And one way to think about artificial monopoly and its relationship to monopolistic competition is this: artificial monopolists, if they were not artificially a monopoly, like let's say you have the patent to a particular life-saving drug. If the government took away that patent and now you had 50 competitors all producing it, it would look exactly like these pictures, right? You would have exactly the same scenario where it's monopolistically competitive now. So in a loss, our ATC is going to be way up here because ATC would be above the price, ATC greater than the price. And so that will cause us to earn the loss rectangle described here. Doot, 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 all the way up to here. It's got to make noises, right? You got to have sound effects when you're doing these. The last thing I want to say about this is efficiency. So they are not efficient, not productive nor allocative efficient. They do have deadweight loss. You can kind of envision where that would be. It's in the same spot where you would see it. So here is the deadweight loss right here. Right? I'm not going to redraw it on every single one of these, but it's that little triangle right there. That's because we're not producing it. MC equals the price, right? Because remember, this tells us what the price is. So this would be our optimal, right? Optimal would be here, and we're not, and that's why there's deadweight loss. But generally, economists don't say we should go in and price regulate restaurants or grocery stores, because they have a variety of choices, and if we did that, you would eliminate those choices. So it's really considered the price of variety. So we don't typically regulate restaurants and things like that. It's also not productive efficient. You can see that they're not producing at their minimum of the ATC. They are not at the minimum of the ATC. They are not at the minimum of the ATC. And companies typically in monopolistic competition won't do that, and you can actually see that the only time where that would happen is if it was coincidentally passing right through this point. Whoop, right there, it would be if they were passing through here. But that, paying attention, you can see would not be the long run equilibrium, right? Like, because this is a short run. This can only be true in the short run. And I'm going to include that down here as well. Short run. It can't happen in the long run. In the long run, minimum ATC is necessarily way over here. QF can't occur at it. And a way to think about what that is that they have excess capacity, right? They could produce more units at a lower average cost, but they're going to choose not to. And actually, if you go to like retail stores like Target or a restaurant or a grocery store, you'll notice that if you start to pick up on it, how many checkout lanes do they have? What's their capacity, right? Versus what are they using at any given time? The size of the restaurant, right? Think of the size of the restaurant. 99% of the time, or 90% of the time, a restaurant's going to have extra tables. They're going to have excess capacity. You think about, a retail store like Target or Walmart, they're almost always going to have extra capacity, maybe extra carts, extra checkout lanes. There's going to be a little bit extra here where we could be at a lower average cost, but we're profit maximizing at that lower amount. So it is something that you can kind of check out here and see. So hopefully this helped you understanding monopolistic competition, both in the short run and the long run. I'll see you next time.